Shem Hashem Naaseh V'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We are back here on a Tuesday night. IGGERET, HAGRA, the letter from the Gaon Mivilna that we've been analyzing and studying for the last several months. And Bezrat Hashem, continue to improve our lives through the teachings of our sages. Tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema of Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Doris bat Zora, David ben Esriya, Joshua ben Noach, Yitro ben Avraham, Talia bat Sarah, Orit bat Ilana, Rivka bat Sarah, Tinok ben Rivka, and also for a Atzlacha Rabba for Amir ben Shahan, Marsha bat Julie, Ayla bat Marsha, Cephas ben Marsha, Louis ben Marsha, Alexander ben Marsha, and Yitro ben Avraham, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, David ben Esriya, Alex ben Noach, and Netanel Yosef ben Avraham, and also Reuven Chaim ben Parel, and also for all of Am Yisrael and all of the righteous Noahites that continue to support our teachings, whether it's by watching it, donating, or both. It's donating their time, their money. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. So we have quite a bit. As you see from the title, this title surely is going to get a few people's attention, especially the feminists that are always looking for something wrong in the Torah because they want to rule the world. But nonetheless, the value of a good wife, or the price, I should say, the value is priceless, and everybody knows that. But the price of a good wife, perhaps you may not know that. And this week's parasha, Parashat Ki Titzeh, starts with the verse Ki Titzeh lemilchama al oivecha, that when you will go out to war against your enemies. So Chazal on this verse say, what is this milchama? What is this milchama against your enemy? Obviously you're going to war against your enemy. So why? Who else are you going to go to war with? Your friend? This surely, this extra superfluous word surely means something extra. What does it mean that you're going to go to war against your enemy? The enemy being the Yetzer Hara, but not just any Yetzer Hara, the Yetzer Hara of the Satan and his wife, who is so powerful that we're not even allowed to say her name. Now, why the Satan and his wife? Because here this has to do with the issues of morality. The issues of morality, the issues of promiscuity, the issues of wasting seed, and things of that nature. And when a person understands how much is involved in having a holy home, they understand why this war is so pertinent in a Jewish person's life, and generally in any person's life. And that's why also, when a person does not care so much about the kedusha of their house, several verses later, the Torah teaches us about the ben sorer umoreh, the wayward child, the child that doesn't listen to his parents, the child that becomes a drunk, the child that becomes a obnoxious person that curses his parents, that the Torah says gets a death penalty. Why do parents have a ben sorer umoreh? Chachamim say it's because they were not careful in the issues of kedusha. In the issues of kedusha, when the parents act like animals, then they have little puppies as children. Now, the question is, how can I assure myself that the wife that I picked for myself already, or the wife that I want to pick for myself, she's the one, she's the Eshet Chayil. I mean, I already picked her. Do I need to get a divorce, find a new one? Or I didn't pick her. Should I just stay single forever? Absolutely not. Why? Because we have the Chachamim that are going to teach us exactly what to do. And unfortunately today, most men today don't know how to be men. Most men know how to be women, perhaps. They know how to be children. They know how to maybe to send a few tweets and some WhatsApps. But to be men, it requires a little bit of learning. And unfortunately, most people think that in order to be a man, you have to be macho, perhaps have some muscles, maybe own a few guns, yell at people, be aggressive, or in other cases, the exact opposite, be feminine, be almost like the girl, but pretend like you're a guy. People are very confused in this generation. To be a man is not necessarily about the macho-ness of the man. To be a man requires a little bit of Torah. Why Torah? Because you'll learn today what it requires to actually have a good wife. What's the price? The price of a good wife. Especially if you don't have the tools that you think you need, or even the tools that you do need. You can actually learn from this shiur everything you need to know in order to have a good wife. Now, if you still end up if you're doing everything that the Chachamim say, and you still have a bad wife, then you have a few options. You could either get a divorce, which sometimes is a mitzvah in itself, and even recommended in some cases. We obviously don't want people to get divorces left and right, like in a secular world, but sometimes people are instead of being Ezer kenegdo, the helper against them, she is negdo, she's against him. Sometimes you have a woman that is against her husband instead of for her husband, to build her husband, and sometimes vice versa. Sometimes the husband, all he knows how to do is to command and to insult, and he thinks that the whole house is full of his servants. So the key is to know that there's a price to pay. There's a price to pay to have a good wife, and obviously, needless to say, to have a good husband. But if the husband pays the price, surely the wife will want to pay the price. But if the husband doesn't pay the price, very few women are going to withstand the test and also pay the price of having a good husband. Why? Because it's one goes with the other. Now, over the last few weeks, the Gaon Mivilna has been teaching us all of the different words that he wrote to his wife about how she has to make sure to give chinuch to the children, a specific type of chinuch to the daughters, to make sure that they're modest, to make sure that they learn musar, to make sure that they know how to be good women. And of course, the boys in the house, make sure they learn Torah, make sure they pray, make sure they have clean mouth, make sure that you spend as much money as you possibly can to get them the best possible Torah education. If it costs $25 an hour or $100 an hour, doesn't make much of a difference. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that's paying for it anyway. Now, in this section, we're not necessarily going to cover a lot of ground as far as many lines within a letter. It's probably going to be about a line and a half, two sentences within the entire letter. But there's going to be a lot of information. Where the Gaon Mivilna says, after telling us about all of the different things that we need to know about raising kids and chinuch and so on, now he tells his wife the following. And it's known that women merit eternal life by bringing their children to the Bet Knesset and to learn Chumash. And he brings the Gemara, Masechet Brachot, page 17a. And there's a certain nusach of this letter. There's a couple of nusachs, a couple of versions of this letter, where there's one of the versions says an extra few words on it, where it says, "Umeod ani mitzaveh ota lenevat batai al dvar zeh." That the Gaon Mivilna says that in essence he's instructing the messenger that's going to give this message to his wife. And I always command my wife, my princess of my house, on this specific thing. Which specific thing? The specific thing of bringing the children to the Bet Knesset and to learn Chumash, to Torah, and so on. So here the Gaon Mivilna says something that's extraordinary. Why? He's bringing a Gemara, Masechet Brachot, that says that the women merit eternal life for the Torah that their children learn. And of course, also the Torah that their husbands learn. But the question is, why is this Gemara Why is this Gemara something that doesn't mention other mitzvot that women do? Why? Because Rav Chia in this Gemara asks, how do women merit an eternal life? How do women? And the Gemara answers that women merit an eternal life since they facilitate the Torah learning of their children and send their husbands to the study hall to learn Mishnah and Gemara and wait for their husbands until they come home. And the Gaon Vilna comments on this specific Gemara in a different place where he says that what's really the Gemara's question here as far as how do they merit the eternal life, because women surely have reasons to get eternal life. They perform a lot of mitzvot. So the Gemara in essence is trying to teach us here that although women do many mitzvot, those mitzvot protect them at specific times. But it's the Torah study that's going to shield them from all misfortune all the time. And really what the Gemara was wondering here was that how did the women earn a specific merit and protection that's provided by the Torah? Why? Because they don't actually learn Torah. Generally speaking, they don't learn Torah like men do. Surely a woman is obligated to learn the basics of Torah. She has to learn the laws of Tarat Mishpacha, the laws of modesty, the laws of all the holidays. In today's world, the woman in essence does have to learn a lot of Torah because women have and men have to go over a lot more information in order to retain the information than they did in the previous generation. But nonetheless, the obligation of toiling in Torah is really the obligation of men, not the obligation of women. This is also, as a side note, for all of you people that want to become lecturers one day, to give shiurim, to be rabbis, or perhaps if you are always wondering how come there's, many times there are many more women in the crowd than there are men, is because women don't have a yetzirah for learning Torah like men do. They have some type of yetzirah, but not in the same level as men. And the reason why is because the obligation on men to learn Torah is much greater than the obligation for women to learn Torah. But still, we have to answer the question of how come the Gemara did not mention the other mitzvot. Now, even though the Gaon Vilna says that it's because it wanted to give us the understanding that it's the Torah that's going to protect her and give her this olam haba and so on. But still, what about the other mitzvot? How come I don't get olam haba for all of those other mitzvot? How come I don't get olam haba for all those other mitzvot? Now, of course, you get rewarded, but there's different levels of reward. Now, we see also that you get certain types of mitzvot that are so important that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that if a woman does not perform them, her life is at risk. Which mitzvot are those? Before we go into Arvit on Yom Shishi, on right before Shabbat, Keilot Israel, whether it's Ashkenazi or Sfaradi, everybody reads this specific part of the prayer where it talks about how the three reasons of why women die during birth, and this is from the oral Torah. What are these three reasons? Chala, nida, v'adlakat haner. That if a woman is desecrating the Shabbat, she lit the candle too late, she puts her life at risk. Why? Because the Torah says, mechalelea mot yumat. A person that desecrates Shabbat, death penalty. Even if somebody desecrated Shabbat accidentally, they still have to do tshuva for it. They can't say, I missed it. Okay, I was late a little bit. No big deal. No, it is a big deal. At the time of the Bet HaMikdash, you would have had to bring a korban and watch that sacrifice be slaughtered. Big animal gets slaughtered. Why? Because you have to look at that sacrifice and know that in reality it's supposed to be you that's slaughtered by Hashem. But Hashem has mercy and He replaced you with an animal. Today, the animals are replaced by our prayers. But not just a prayer alone, the prayer that is comes together with coincides with a tshuva. So if a woman lights candles for Shabbat too late and she desecrates Shabbat, if she doesn't do tshuva, she's putting her life at risk. Second thing is nida. If a woman is not careful to go to the mikveh before she's with her husband, if she's not careful with counting the days, if she's not careful with family purity issues in general, she doesn't do the bdika, she just decides, you know what, I'll just count the days whenever I feel like it. Usually it's 4 days, that's enough. Yeah, but what about that stain that you have over there? No, it's nothing. I think it's just the temperature. No, I think it's just a scratch. I think, yeah, but you have to take it to a mumche. You have to go to a rabbi that's an expert in this issue and check if this is indeed coming from the place that makes you still nida, or it's really a scratch, or it's really some injury. You can't just decide for yourself that you don't want to take it and check your bedika cloth. No, it's embarrassing. Well, first and foremost, what's embarrassing about putting something in an envelope anonymously and then getting a text message? What's embarrassing about it? Second of all, you should know that David HaMelech, this would be his job. This is what he did. Women would come and give him their bdika cloth. They would drop off the bdika cloth for David HaMelech to inspect it and see if the women are pure for their husbands. That's why David HaMelech cries to Hashem that while all of the other kings and princes would be wasting their time in the things of this world, he would have blood on his hands. What blood on his hands? The blood of the Nida. All of the different women, the Benot Israel, they wanted to double check if they are pure and permissible to their husbands. Now sometimes women, they don't go. They don't go to the mikveh, or they don't count properly. And this puts their life at risk. Unfortunately, I read a research maybe a couple of years ago. I believe the research itself came out in 2017 about the modern Orthodox community today in America. And the researcher said that nearly 50%, to my recollection, I think it was 48 or 50%, of the women that consider themselves modern Orthodox also admit that they do not go to the mikveh. They don't count. They don't count the days. They don't go to the mikveh. Nothing. That means that all of those kids are bnei nida. All of those children that they're having are bnei nida. They're the sons of a woman that's nida. And Rabbi Akiva says those are the problematic children of the generation. Hashem Yishmor v'Yatzil. Now, of course, it's not the child's fault, if you will, but of course we don't believe that life begins with birth. We believe that life began before you came to this world. But nonetheless, a woman, a Jewish woman, that is with her husband without double checking whether she's nida or not, without going to the mikveh, this woman is putting her and her husband's life at risk. That's why we read it every Friday night. All of the Keilot, whether it's Ashkenazi or Sfaradi, wherever you are, you read this every Friday night, that a woman puts her life at risk if she does not keep Nida. It's Karet, it's Isur Karet. It's one of the 48 different sins that the Torah says it's Karet. It meaning cut off from this world and cut off from the next world. And to have people that consider themselves semi-religious say that they are not keeping Nida shows you how the definition of religiosity has changed in recent years. Nonetheless, we have a third reason. What's the third reason? Chala. Sometimes you have these different types of organizations, come to you and tell you, listen, you, what do you want, a sgula? You want to have a kid? You want to get married? You want to have refuah shlema? Let's get all of your girlfriends and do sudat ma'amarim. What's this sudat ma'amarim? Scam. That's what it is. Rav Mutzafi was asked this, and I saw this with my own eyes, at least a dozen times on his website about this new scam that people have, where they have this party, the party for the girls to get together, and because they're eating together a few $1,000s worth of food, that's like a mitzvah. He says there's no mitzvah like this. It's a complete waste of time, and it's a complete waste of money, and it's just a way for people to eat a lot and spend a lot and make somebody else rich. There's nothing valuable according to the Torah in a bunch of girls eating together. There's no mitzvah there. You want to eat together? Go ahead and eat together, but don't call it a mitzvah, don't call it a custom. It's nothing. It's just a money maker that unfortunately some organizations have fooled people with, especially people that are not very frum. Or sometimes they are frum, but they also like to eat a lot with a lot of people. The other scam is this afrashat chala situation, where every other day the rabbanit from such and such organization comes and tells you, get together all your girlfriends and let's do afrashat chala. And you get all the girls and they come practically, some of them don't even come with clothes on, but everybody thinks they're doing a mitzvah, making challah together. Oh yeah, I'm going to put a key in the challah. Oh no, I'm going to just pray over here. Oh no, I'm just going to look at this. And everybody goes over there, and everybody thinks that they're doing a mitzvah. And then the rabbanit or the messenger comes and starts collecting money. And 10, 20, 30, 50, $100,000 later, everybody says, Chazakot uvruchot tzadikot. But they're still going to desecrate Shabbat. They're still going to put on the miniskirt. They're still going to walk around with a tank top. And still Hashem Yishmor v'Yatzil, not going to do tshuva. Meaning, it's completely moneymaker. It has nothing to do with anything of value in our religion. Now, of course, doing afrashat chala is a mitzvah in itself. You don't need to have 50 girls to do it. You can do it by yourself. Like a tzadikah, get yourself some of the ingredients. Make sure that you know exactly how much quantity you need. You calculate everything. You have 5 pounds. And Baruch Hashem, you take out a little piece of the dough. And you say the blessing on this. You end up burning that part. The rest of it, you make beautiful chalot for your family that most likely you're going to have to freeze because it's going to be more than you could eat in one sitting. But nonetheless, Baruch Hashem, and don't even share this chalot with your neighbors and your friends. Keep it for your own family. Why? Because the challah is your parnasah. Sometimes people like to share things. It's good to share things, but when it comes to challah, don't share chalot with people. Keep your chalot for yourself. Why? Challah is your own parnasah. Unless you're going to be there too. If, let's say, somebody's hosting you, and you want to bring something with you, you want to bring the challah that you made, no problem. You're going to benefit from it too, no problem. But to start giving out the chalot that you made to all the people in the neighborhood, not a good idea. Chachamim say you're giving away your parnasah. But nonetheless, what about these afrashat challah that come up in every neighborhood every other day on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? The rabbanit of the community has a afrashat challah that she's raising $10,000 a day. What about that? I think it's a complete waste of money. You could take that $10,000 and donate it to a kollel. Take the $10,000, help people do tshuva. Why? Almost nobody does tshuva in these afrashot chalot. All they do is just simply raise money for somebody to get rich. Nobody's doing tshuva in those things. A complete waste of time. But nonetheless, the mitzvah of afrashat challah is a very serious mitzvah. You need to make sure that you're making the right amount. You take a small amount, about a handful for most people, of the challah, a little bit more even. Take it, you burn that part, ishtabach shimolad, you make the blessing, and before you burn it, obviously you make the blessing. This is afrashat challah, zeh challah, Baruch Hashem. But what about if you made challah, but you forgot? Ooh, it's a problem. What's the problem? Life risk. Life risk. Life risk. Why? Because that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said. That's why. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said. So we see sometimes the mitzvot seem like they're a big deal, but the punishment is not necessarily always a big deal. And sometimes the opposite. It seems like the mitzvah is not a big deal, but the punishment is a very big deal. Why? Mitzvot are not necessarily always supposed to make sense to you. You're supposed to simply do them because Hashem said so. If you're looking for every mitzvah to make sense to you, you're going to fail in your servitude of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because you're going to run into a wall on a regular basis, because there are going to be many mitzvot that are not going to make sense to you, because you're still human, you're still learning, and there's a lot that goes into a mitzvah that is beyond our comprehension. But the point being here is that we would think that since these 3 mitzvot, challah, nida, and adlakat haner, these are 3 mitzvot, that's the reason why the woman would go to heaven for. Why? Because on the other hand, if she doesn't do them, it's life risk. She's at about to have a baby, Hashem Yishmor V'Yatzil, Torah, the Chachamim say, she's at life risk. At any moment, Hashem could use this particular time of celebration and turn it into a time of mourning, Hashem Yishmor. Turn it into a time of mourning. And unfortunately, this stuff happens. Even though it doesn't happen as much as it did in the past, nonetheless, it still does happen. So, a person that doesn't, would think that the reward for these things would be very big. But it is a big reward. It is a big reward, but the Gemara is not saying that it is enough for you to get Olam Haba for it. It's not enough. Now, of course, the mitzvah of modesty is a critical mitzvah for a woman. A woman that's not modest is simply a woman that is considered 100% wicked, even if she gives tzedakah, even if she makes challah every day, even if she does every other mitzvah. She keeps Shabbat, she keeps everything else. But if she's not modest, she doesn't cover her hair with a mitpachat, she doesn't walk around modest, she's not a following the Torah, she has a very serious problem in the customs of the Ashkenazim. She has to cover her hair with a kosher wig, which is virtually non-existent in this generation, but let's assume it does exist somewhere. She has the permission to cover her hair with a kosher wig that's not coming from idolatry and is modest. Now, and that would make her, Baruch Hashem, modest. That would make her according to the Chachamim of Ashkenaz. But if she's Sfaradi, from the Syrian community, from the Bukharian community, from Moroccan community, from Tripoli, from Libya, from Egypt, you have no permission whatsoever to wear a wig. Now you're going to say that some Chacham said that's a Sephardi Chacham said that you're allowed to wear a wig. Yes, there are some Chachamim that say it, but nobody said that you're allowed to change the customs of your father and your mother. And your father and your mother did not wear wigs. Your father and your mother, if they were religious, they wore the mitpachat, and that's how everybody paskins based on Rav Ovadia. Rav Ovadia alav hashalom, he was very much against the wigs for the issues of modesty. He viewed all wigs as immodest, which is rightly so. And most of the Chachamim of the Sephardi communities said that the wigs of their days even were all immodest and forbidden. Most of the Chachamim in the Ashkenazi community also forbid the wigs, but some Chachamim said that they're allowed, but nobody said that the wigs of today are allowed. Nobody said. No big posek said that the wigs of today are allowed. People say that the Chachamim said it, but the Chachamim themselves never said it. Now, we learn that when it comes to modesty, this is a mitzvah. The Gemara says that is the most difficult for a woman. Why? Because a woman is naturally likes to be a show-off. That's just the way it is. It's part of the inclination of a woman. The natural inclination of a woman is to be a show-off. They like to be a show-off. Hence the reason why the reward for modesty is so big. But the punishment for immodesty is also big. Rabbi Misatmer alav hashalom says that we learn, our sages teach us, that the prohibition for women to have their hair uncovered is learned from Parashat Naso. Parashat Naso is in Sefer Bamidbar, book of Numbers, chapter 5, verse 18, and instructs us to uncover the hair of the sotah, a woman that was a wayward woman, that's suspected of cheating on her husband. Part of the process of intimidating her to admit her wrongdoing so they don't have to kill her is taking off, the last step is to take off har kisui rosh, which is wonder of wonders, by the way, for anybody that learned Masechet Sotah. If you learn Masechet Sotah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't learned Masechet Sotah, there's an entire tractate about this whole issue of Sotah, of wayward woman. If you haven't learned it, you have no idea what I'm talking about, so I'll tell you a little bit. Here in this whole issue of a wayward woman is an extraordinary thing that happened at the time of the Beit HaMikdash. Why? Because this was literally divine intervention in front of people. A woman that would be suspected of cheating would have to, if there's two witnesses that see that this woman is doing something that her husband warned her not to do, she put herself in a closed room with another guy after being warned, then the husband takes her to the Kohen Gadol at the Beit HaMikdash, in order to verify whether she actually committed the act of intimacy with somebody that's not her husband or not. If she did commit the act, she will die. If she didn't commit the act, she will live and actually get rewarded. But how does this whole process happen? Well, first off, there's a whole intimidation process that happens at the Bet HaMikdash, where the Kohen tries to get the woman to admit that she did wrong, that she cheated on her husband. Why? If she admits that she cheated on her husband, she admits it, then she is divorces the husband. The husband throws her out without giving her the ketubah, meaning she gets nothing that he promised her initially, because she's a cheater, a liar, a waste of life, and she doesn't deserve anything good for being a cheater. Baruch Hashem. Now she gets thrown out, and she's also forbidden from being with the Don Juan that she cheated on her husband with. But she's still alive, so she can do tshuva and Bezrat Hashem start her life over and become a tzadikah again and become a Bat Yisrael. But until then, she is a disaster, but nonetheless still alive. Why? Because she admitted that she did something wrong. She did the terrible, most terrible thing, which is isur karet, adultery. Now, if she refuses to admit that she did wrong, either because she's a liar and she thinks she could fool not only the Chachamim, not only the Kohanim, not only her husband, but she could fool Hashem, then she continues to lie. Or if she's really telling the truth, she actually didn't commit an intimate act with this other guy. Perhaps she acted inappropriately by being in a closed room despite her husband telling her not to do it, so she deserves the embarrassment she's going to get anyway. But nonetheless, she didn't go that far. She didn't cross the last line, if you will. She didn't cross the border. So she's not going to say, I did it, if she didn't do it. So she stays strong and says, I didn't do it. So now the Kohen continues to intimidate her, the Gemara says. How does he intimidate her? He makes her walk around the whole Bet HaMikdash, and everybody's looking at this whole thing, this embarrassing. He keeps going back to her and asks her, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? Trying to tire her out. So eventually, she tells the truth that she cheated. Now, if she stays this way, the last step before she drinks the water, once the whole process is over, she drinks special type of water from the Bet HaMikdash that have the name of Hashem that was written on a scroll is dipped into it, so all the ink of the name of Hashem, which is typically not forbidden to erase, but here Hashem says you're allowed to erase my name for the sake of creating shlom bayit, or creating the truth, which is to eliminate the sinners. So this name, this ink, goes into the water, she drinks it. If she really cheated, she explodes and dies. And in a very, very horrific way, where the Chachamim say that the water becomes like a snake, a snake inside her body, and starts biting her inside her body, Hashem Yishmor v'Yatzil, until she explodes. Horrific, atrocious death that you wouldn't even want for your enemies. Perhaps maybe most of them. But nonetheless, this is the last step. What happens before this last step, that she drinks the water? Chachamim say, right before the last step, right before she drinks the water, they take off her kisui rosh. They take off the mitpachat. It's here. No, tell us the truth. Why? To show everybody, look at what happens to a woman that acts this way. It's embarrassing her. Getting her to be even more embarrassed than she already has been. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Because the wonder of wonders of everything I just said is that according to us, in our society today, this doesn't seem like the worst part. Why? If you read Masechet Sotah, you would see that really the Torah says that the real step, before they take off the kisui rosh, they rip her shirt and show her breasts. That's what happens. And cause her embarrassment that way. And if she still doesn't admit, then they do the most embarrassing thing, which is to take off her kisui rosh, which from there we learn that according to our Torah, according to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to show your hair is even more provocative than to show your chest. And today, Hashem Yishmor V'Yatzil, many women are unfortunately doing both. Now, the Rebbe Misatmer says we learn that the Torah tells us to teaches us about covering our hair from the mitzvah of the sotah, implying that the hair must ordinarily be covered. If you're a married woman, Rambam actually paskins that even if you are a 6-year-old girl, you should cover your hair. But we don't paskin like that. The Shulchan Aruch and Rav Ovadia later on, and all the Chachamim say that only if she is married is she obligated to cover her hair. If she's not married, she could cover her hair, but she's not obligated. Nonetheless, if she was married and then she got a divorce, she has to keep her hair covered with the mitpachat. Why? We do not go down in Kedusha. So going back to the Rebbe Misatmer, says the question arises from all of this. What question? Why isn't this prohibition juxtaposed with the general rules of women's tzniut? Meaning, you know that women have to be tznuah, she has to be modest anyway. So how come we don't just have this specific rule as just part of those laws? Why do we have to have a verse from the Torah teaching us that there is a prohibition for a married woman to walk around with her hair showing? Why? Why do we have to learn this mitzvah? The Rebbe Misatmer asks from a hint of the topic of the sotah. Answer is, perhaps the Torah is informing us that many of the curses that are found in Parashat Sotah Rachmana Litzlan could also apply to women with uncovered hair, in order for us to comprehend the severity of this prohibition. Meaning that if you're walking around with immodest hair, it is very possible and even likely that all of the curses and the punishments that would happen to a woman that was proven to be a sotah, an actual wayward woman, would come upon a woman that is walking around with the uncovered hair. So that's one of the things that we learned, that's a mitzvah from the Torah, and what our Chachamim teaches about it. So you would think that now we have a mitzvah of Shabbat, Adlakat HaNer, Nida, Chala. Okay, they were great mitzvot, grave punishments, but still Chachamim do not say that the woman gets Olam Haba because of them. So you would think, so it's for modesty then. She gets Olam Haba because she covers her hair. She gets Olam Haba because she's modest. Right? No. Now, is she going to go to Olam Haba if she's not modest? No, she's definitely not going. But why would she go to Olam Haba? Still says Torah. So we have to go into the Gemara to see what's going on here. How come the Torah tells us this here? So the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 17a, says the following: גדולה ההבטחה שהבטיחן הקדוש ברוך הוא לנשים יותר מן האנשים. Greater is the promise that the Holy One, blessed is He, made to the women than He made to the men. As it's stated, נשים שאננות קומנה שמענה קולי. You women are at ease. Rise up and hear my voice. You confident daughters, give ear to my speech. Meaning that the promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to the women in a verse by the prophet Isaiah, chapter 32, verse 9, is that don't worry, you have your promise to have Olam Haba. Promise to have Olam Haba, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. Not just any women, not the sinful women, the righteous women. Says you have nothing to worry about, you're going to Olam Haba. So comes Rabbi Chia and says, hold on a second. Through what deed do women even have a merit an eternal life? Through going through the trouble of bringing their children to the synagogue and learning the Chumash, scripture. and through sending their husbands to the study hall to learn Mishnah, to learn Gemara, and for waiting for their husbands until they come home from the study hall. So that's what the Gemara tells us. You want to go to Olam Haba, you have to send your kids to learn Torah. You have to send your kids to learn Torah. You have to send your husband to learn Torah. Now what happens if you send your husband to learn Torah, but the guy rather go to a baseball game, but the guy goes over there, but he's like a wooden plank. He shows up empty and he leaves empty. Doesn't get anything. The rabbi speaks the truth, but he is too focused on his stock portfolio. He's not even paying attention. What happens to you? Gemara says you have nothing to worry about. Why? The promise that I made to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, even greater than I made to my sons. Why? You for sure are going to Olam Haba. You sent him to learn Torah, meaning even if he doesn't learn, he goes over there and he empty mind. He's like a dlat, like a pumpkin, nothing inside. You still get a full reward as if he learned Torah like the Yavitz, like Rav Ovadia, like he's amazing. Why? You did your job. You did your job. You sent him to go learn Torah. When he came home, you waited for him. Hi, honey, how was the shiur? Oh, honey, you're still up? Of course I'm up. Yeah, but it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Shiur just, yeah, I'm waiting for you. I wanted to see how the shiur was. You sit down with your husband 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to hear how the shiur was, to show that you're interested in what he did, even if he doesn't remember a single thing from the shiur. How was the shiur? That was good. What'd you learn? I don't remember. You got a reward as if your husband just became Rav Ovadia for the last few hours. That's what you get. You go to Olam Haba. Promise for you as a woman is greater than the husband. Him, he has to make sure that he learns in order to get such a great Olam Haba. In fact, the Ben Ish Chai says this is the reason why when we say the blessing of Mishe Barach at the Bet Knesset, when somebody gets a aliyah at the Bet Knesset and the rabbi gives them a bracha, says Mishe Barach on the person and says Yaron ben, he say Doris, the mother's name, not the father's name, or Avraham ben such and such, and Ovadia ben such and such. Why? Why name of the mother? Why the name of the mother? Why not name of the father? The Ben Ish Chai says because surely it's better not to mention the fathers, because most fathers, they have two problems and it's better not to mention them. What's the two problems? Possibly they're wasting seed. And even if they're righteous and they don't waste seed, who knows if they're studying enough Torah? So it's very likely that they're wasting time and not learning enough Torah, and they have the sin of bitul Torah. They have the sin of bitul Torah, or they're wasting seed, or both. It's better not to mention them if you want a blessing. Mention your mom. Why? If your mom sent your father to go learn Torah, her reward is full. Her reward is complete. So surely it's better to mention her in Shamayim if you want to get a blessing. So here we see that the reward for women is extraordinary if they send their kids, if they send their husband to learn Torah. That is the big thing. But the question is, how come it's this? How come it's this and it's not the others? Now, surely a woman's going to tell you, listen, I like Torah, I like Shabbat, I like Kashrut, and so on, but I don't feel like pushing my husband to go learn Torah. I don't feel like pushing my husband to go learn Torah. I told him to go to Torah, he doesn't want. And then I sent him a shiur, and he doesn't want to watch. And I tried listening to the rabbi and pushing my husband a little bit, and he got into a fight with me. Next thing you know, he canceled the vacation. I don't want to ruin my shlom bayit. I don't want to send my husband anymore. If he wants to go, he's going to go. He's a grown man. I did my job. You failed at your job. Why? You want Olam Haba, you have to send your husband to go learn Torah. You want Olam Haba, you have to send your kids to go learn Torah. Why? Why is this the case? Why can't everybody just worry about themselves? Why can't she be modest and keep Shabbat and keep Kashrut and that's enough? Why does she have to send her husband and our kids to go learn Torah? Now, first and foremost, you should know that from the beginning of the Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu already told us what is the job of a woman in the world. When he wrote in the verse, Ezer kenegdo, he says that she is going to be either the help of her husband or she's going to be against her husband. If she wants a husband to succeed, she has to help him. If she wants a husband to fail, she has to go against him. She has to go against him. But helping him, meaning helping him in mitzvot. Going against him, meaning not saying anything if he's doing sins. So now, the Tikunei HaZohar says in Parashat Bereshit that the first woman, really, if you pay attention to the verses in Sefer Bereshit, you'll see that the woman was created a couple of times. First it says that he created them, and then it says he created a woman. Why? Because really, there was a wife designated to Adam HaRishon before Chava. There was a woman before her. And this woman, she didn't want to help Adam HaRishon. She said, no, I'm just as good as him. I don't want to help him. He's on his own, I'm on my own. She didn't want to do anything. She ran away from Adam HaRishon. And married the Satan. And she became the Satan's wife that we're not allowed to even mention her name. And this, by the way, as a side note, is a very interesting point that she does not want, she was a feminist. She was anti-helping the man. She was all about women's power. The Or HaChaim HaKadosh says that in one of his dreams, he had to fight the Satan. And he said the Satan had no problem beating him. But his wife, very difficult, he says. I almost lost to her. Almost lost to the Satan's wife. She's more powerful than the Satan. And she is in charge of all of the immorality, all of the filth of the world. That's her department. Why? She's a feminist. An interesting note is that anyone that's knows a little bit about feminism and the filth that's in that world, the main people in the feminist world, they idolize her. They idolize the Satan's wife. They call her by name. They have all types of symbols of her. They have all types of teachings about her. Literally, if you type in the name, L-I-L-I-T, you'll see a bunch of feminist, disgusting, waste of a life people making lectures celebrating the Satan's wife. Why? She's their leader. She's their idol. Which is unbelievable. I actually only discovered this in the last year from a student of mine that Baruch Hashem, after she did tshuva, she told me that she used to be a feminist. And she used to also idolize this filth. So the Torah that was written thousands of years ago, the Zohar that was written thousands of years ago, already discussed what we're talking about today and what is happening in the world today of this feminism and so on. So the job of a woman is to be ezer kenegdo. She has to help her husband, push him, entice him to go learn Torah. But why is it not enough for me to be modest, she says? Why is it not enough for me to make kosher, nice challah, good food for my kids? Why is that not enough? Why is it not enough for me to just do my own mitzvot? Why do I have to push my husband and kids to learn Torah? What if they don't want to? Then you're not doing your job. Now, what's the how do we understand this whole thing? We have to go to the Gemara in Masechet Ketubot. Masechet Ketubot, all types of issues between man and his wife, issues of marriage, unlike the foolish Messianic Jews that don't even know how to read, who called Masechet Ketuvot, which is the tractate of addresses. They don't even know how to read, but yet they want to be critical about our oral Torah. They're those idiots from One for Israel. They call it Masechet Ketuvot, the tractate of addresses, instead of Masechet Ketubot, which is a ketubah for marriage in Judaism. So anyway, it's funny how people don't know how to read. They, even the words of the sages, they want to criticize the sages. Most bizarre thing in the world. But nonetheless, Ga'avat Adam Tashpilenu, the pride of man will be his downfall. That's what Hashem is going to use to bring embarrassment to those people. So anyway, in this Gemara, there's a fantastic teachings in a story. What's the story? Asserting Tubot, page 111b. Conversation between Rabbi Elazar and his Rabbi Yochanan. Now, Rabbi Elazar was Kodesh Kodashim. He was Rabbi Akiva's rabbi. But Rabbi Yochanan was his rabbi. He's the one that made him do tshuva. He's the one that made him into a Talmid Chacham. So now, even though Rabbi Elazar wanted to go learn Torah, but he didn't know anything until he went to Rabbi Yochanan. So now that he became a big rabbi, now that he became a big Talmid Chacham, turning his life around at the age of 28, didn't know anything. At the age of 28, nothing. He didn't know, went to Yerushalayim, learned under Rabban Yochanan, became Kodesh Kodashim, the leader of the generation. One of the Gdolei Ador. But he used to be an Am Haaretz, used to be an ignoramus. But now that he became a tzaddik, now that he became a Gadol, now that he became a Kodesh Kodashim, he has his own proofs, his own learning, his own understanding. So now he's learning with the rabbi, and not just learning from the rabbi. Today, new people, they want to learn with the rabbi. They don't want to learn from the rabbi. They just did tshuva 3 months ago. They already want to tell the rabbi all of their new insights. Yeah, but did you watch my shiur? No, I don't have time to watch a shiur, Rabbi. I'm writing a book already. What do you mean? You just learned how to keep Shabbat 3 weeks ago. Now you're already writing a book? No, listen, Rabbi. I'm an expert in watching lectures. I watch lectures all day, and I can already tell you everything that the rabbi is thinking just by watching lectures. Shem Yishmor v'Yatzil. People think they become Talmidei Chachamim by watching lectures. You can become a decent human being, a decent Jew, by watching lectures. But to become a Talmid Chacham, it's not happening through lectures. With all kol hakavod to all of the people that are making lectures, including myself, no one's becoming a Talmid Chacham purely from lectures. To become Talmid Chacham takes years and years of toil of learning from the books, learning from Chachamim, and so on and so forth. But now Rabbi Elazar comes with a chidush. He used to be an Am Haaretz, used to be an ignoramus himself, and he comes and he brings a chidush. What's the chidush? He says to his Rebbe, Kvod Harav, Amei Haratzot enam chaim. The ignoramuses, the Amei Haratzot, those that are ignorant of Torah knowledge, will not be resurrected with the dead. They're not gonna be a resurrection for them. They're ignorant. They do not have the right to be resurrected. And I bring you a verse. I bring you a verse from the Torah, as it says in the book of Isaiah, chapter 26, verse 14. They're dead, never to come to life. Lifeless, never arise. That's the verse. So, Rabbi Yochanan says, listen, it's not really pleasing to the master of the universe that you say such things about his children, the ignoramuses, even though they're ignoramuses, and you're paskening that they're not going to be resurrected. It's not pleasing to Hashem. Because there is another verse that says that perhaps people that are sinning, perhaps they're lax when it comes to idolatry. If they invite Christians to their synagogue, if they go to a church, if they put idolatry on their head, if they want to befriend the Judeo-Christian organization, then those people will not be resurrected. But not if they're just simply ignoramuses. That's what the Rabbi says, Rabbi Yochanan. Says Hashem is not pleased that you're paskening this way. Why? Because a tzaddik Omer, v'Hashem gozer. Tzaddik gozer, v'Akadosh Baruch Hu mekayem. If a tzaddik, a chacham, paskins, Akadosh Baruch Hu fulfills it. Where does it say that? Gemara Masechet Sukkah, page 14a. So much so that when a tzaddik prays, Akadosh Baruch Hu could change a decree because of the tzaddik. So you're paskening that all of the ignoramuses, which is the majority of people, are not going to be resurrected with the dead. Maybe it's you're really referring to all of the people that are ignoramuses when it comes to idolatry. Maybe that's what you're talking about. So comes Rabbi Elazar, he says, no, Kvod Rav, I mean the ignoramuses who do not learn Torah, and I'll give you another verse. I'll give you another verse that's even stronger than the first verse. Watch verse. The verse says, awake and shout for joy, you who rest in the dirt, for your dew is like the dew that revives the orot, the lights, and you will let the ground fall to the lifeless. Whoever makes use of the or, of the light of the Torah will revive him. But whoever does not make use of this or, of this light of the light of the Torah will not revive him. This also comes from the prophet Isaiah, chapter 26, verse 19. So you see, Kvod Rav, he says to him, there are multiple verses. If the first verse wasn't enough to prove that the ignoramuses are not going to be resurrected, here's another verse. Says that people that do not use the light of the Torah, they're not going to be given life. Why? Because the Torah is life. What does Rabbi Yochanan do? Nothing. Why? There's nothing to do. He knows his students right. He knows his students right. Rabbi Yochanan, Kodesh Kodashim, Gdol Hador, the biggest rabbi in the world, has no answer to his Talmid. No answer. But he said that this is the deen. Meaning that because Rabbi Elazar paskind, this is the case, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the tzaddikim the right to change the world. And in this case, you paskin that all of the people that are ignoramuses are not going to have a resurrection. That's what it's going to be. Because there's nothing to negate what you're saying. You're right. But then, B'siyat Lishmaya, Rabbi Elazar, who loved his Rabbi, the Gemara says, saw that his Rabbi is saddened, is troubled by his statement. He's troubled by his statement, so he went back to the books, he went back to learning to see what could I do. It's the truth. If it wasn't the truth, the Rebbe would have given me something else. Would have given me another rebuttal. He gave me an original rebuttal, but when I gave him the second, my rebuttal, he was defenseless. That's it. That's the truth. Nothing else. So I have to go back and figure out, maybe I missed something. After he finds something, he comes back to Rabbi Yochanan. He says, my teacher, I have found a cure. I found a remedy for them. I found a remedy from them in the Torah, meaning my remedy is even stronger than the proofs that I gave you. So you don't think that it's all on the same level, maybe yes, maybe no. The remedy that I have is from a verse from the 5 books of Moses, where? Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verse 4, where the Torah says that they should use a portion of their, if they use a portion of their property to benefit Torah scholars, they're going to merit to have a share in they're going to be able to go to resurrected. Where does it say it? V'atem advikim ba'Adonai Elohechem chayim kulchem hayom. Moshe Rabbeinu says to Am Yisrael, you who cling to Hashem your God, you are alive, you are all alive today. Now of course, the Rabbi Elazar says, of course, we all know it's not possible to cling to the divine presence, because Hashem is it says in a verse later on, same parasha, chapter 4, verse 24 in Deuteronomy, that Hashem your God is a consuming fire. So how come it says in verse 4 that you have to cling to the divine presence, but later on it says that he's a consuming fire? So how do you cleave to a divine presence that's a consuming fire? From here we learn that to cling to Hashem is by clinging to His Chachamim. How do you cling to His Chachamim? In the following ways, Rabbi Elazar says, whoever marries his daughter off to a Torah scholar, or engages in business on behalf of the Torah scholars, meaning he takes the Torah scholar's money and he goes and makes money off of it, and he gives all the profits to the Torah scholar. That's it. He's working for the Torah scholar to make money so he can just learn Torah all day. Or if the Torah scholar doesn't have any money, or even if he does, he simply says, listen, we're going to do Issachar and Zvulun. What's Issachar and Zvulun? I'm going to give the Torah scholar 10%, some say 20% of whatever I make to the Torah scholar. But some say that really the giving the Issachar and Zvulun it's not enough to give 10%. Why? If you want to have true Issachar and Zvulun, there are two major opinions. One opinion is that you have to pay all of his expenses, no matter how big his family is, to live a respectable life. And some say no, even that's not enough. You have to give him half the profits, meaning half the business. Now, most use the just pay all of his expenses, a true Issachar and Zvulun. But the point being is that from here we learn that those that want to be included in this, in the blessing of being resurrected, if they themselves are not Torah scholars, then they have to cleave to Hashem by cleaving to the Torah scholars, either by marrying off their daughters to a Torah scholar, or by investing their money in the Torah scholars and helping them learn more Torah, publicize Torah, and so on and so forth. And Rabbi Elazar says the ignoramuses who do any of these deeds will merit resurrection through their close association with the Torah scholars. So here we see what's in the Gemara, and the Chafetz Chaim writes in several places about this specific extraordinary merit of supporting Torah scholars and yeshivot and kollels and just the Torah in general. And he literally writes that whatever merit and quality a Torah scholar attains, the same merit and quality is attained by the person who supports him. So much so that Chachamim teach us that all of the Torah that you learn in this world, that's what you're going to be able to learn and extrapolate further in the next world. Meaning, if you learned, let's say, you only learned one Masechet in the Shas, when you go up to Olam Haba, that's all you're going to learn further. You're going to learn a lot more about Masechet, this Masechet that you learned, but that's it. You're not going to start learning the Zohar or other tractates in the Gemara. Whatever you learned here, that's what you're going to learn over there. But if you invested in a Torah scholar, then what happens? Whatever you learned, you're also going to learn over there. But even more so, whatever he learned, you're also going to learn over there. It's all going to be gifted to you. Which means that if you start helping people do tshuva, and some of them become Torah scholars, some of them become good Jews that start learning on a regular basis, all of their learning, you're going to get it yourself. You get the merit for it in this world, and you're going to learn it more even further there. So now we see something extraordinary. What's something extraordinary? Is that yes, there are definitely many mitzvot that you can do, but the Torah itself, the learning of Torah, is constantly mentioned as the engine behind it all, the engine that gives that's in essence that makes everything work. What is it like? There was one time a guy who bought an expensive car for $1 million. Now, car delivered to his house, beautiful color, just like he likes, opens the car, beautiful leather, customized, has his name customized on the chairs, the steering wheel, beautiful, customized just like he likes, the wheels sparkle exactly like he likes. Everything is beautiful. He's happy. After a few selfies, few pictures to put on his Facebook page and show off, Shafuni Anas, because of course if you don't show off, what's the whole point of having $1 million car? So, let's go for a ride. Gets into the car, turns on the ignition, or forget this expensive car, no ignition, presses the button. Nothing. Whoop. Press the button again. Nothing. A little confused. What's going on? Looks. Maybe he's missing something. Maybe I really do need a key. What's going on? Doesn't know what's going on. Call the dealer. Say, hey, listen, car doesn't work. You sell me a lemon. Nah, come on, it's $1 million. He goes, yeah, exactly, it's $1 million. Well, car's not working. He goes, you're in the car? So I'm in the car. No, it's not working. You put the key in? Yeah, I put the key in. And it's not working. No. Goes, checked everything? He goes, well, why do I have to check it? It's $1 million car. You know what? Hold on a second. Wait on hold. I'm going to check something. So, checks, goes to the trunk, opens it up to see the engine. Maybe there's something wrong with the engine. Maybe there's a cut-off wire or something. He knows a few things. Or at least he saw it on the internet. That few things. Opens it up. What does he see? Nothing. There's no engine. Engine's missing. Calls the guy. Hey, hold on a second. What are you doing? You sold me $1 million car with no engine? Goes, let me look at your invoice. Hold on a second. You sure there's no engine? Goes, what do you mean I'm sure there's no? You know there's no engines. Okay, checks. Goes, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, we didn't include it. Why wouldn't you include an engine? Because you didn't ask for it. You didn't ask for the engine. The engine is another $250,000. You didn't ask for it, so we didn't include it. He takes him to court, and the judge rules in favor of the guy who bought the $1 million car. Why? Because the judge says a car without an engine is a fancy garbage can. That's all it is. Meaning that without an engine, it's not a car. So surely he paid $1 million because he's expecting a car. Here we learn that no matter how fancy the other mitzvot are, no matter how good the other mitzvot are, you need an engine. The engine in this world is the Torah. That's the engine. Without the Torah, nothing else works. Nothing else functions. Nothing else functions, Rabotai Karim. Now sometimes people don't understand the value of an engine, so they'll go and get a fancy car, and perhaps fancy car breaks down. Fancy car breaks down, and you're waiting on the side of the road while it's raining, and all of a sudden, some car that's completely full of rust, ugly looking, looks like it's from the age of the dinosaurs, pulls over next to you. The guy doesn't even have automatic windows, rolls, makes a lot of noise that you could hear. It's so loud you could hear it from inside your car. Yeah, howdy! Yeah, how are you? Howdy, ma'am. Howdy, sir. You need some help? You can help me? Yeah, I can help you. Sure, I can help you. You have any cables? The guy's like, what cables? Don't worry, son, I got you. You're confused. You got $1 million car. You figured it's going to drive by itself. Now you need the help of some guy that came out of some town. You thought it was only in stories. But 15 minutes later, the guy takes some cables from his $3 truck, connects it to your $1 million car, and what do you got? A moving car. You get a moving car. What's the point? Point is, Rabotai, that sometimes that battery, that engine, that power is going to come from a place that's not necessarily most obvious. Not necessarily most obvious. It's not always the fanciest institution in the world. It's not always the biggest rabbis in the world. It's not always the most famous thing in the world. Sometimes it's just exactly what you need. It's exactly what you need, and exactly what you need comes in all shapes of sizes. And sometimes you'll see that avrech in the kollel, nobody in the world knows him. But you invest your money in that kollel, you invest your money in that avrech, you get yourself an engine that's going to give you power to be resurrected, you power to have a share in the world to come. Now, the key is for a person to know is, number one, the engine for everything is the Torah. The engine for everything is the Torah. When a woman pushes her husband to go learn Torah, when a woman pushes her children to go learn Torah, she's not just fulfilling her role in the world. She's helping everybody else fulfill their role in the world. The impact that she has is much greater than her husband would have on its own. In fact, Chachamim say the Chidah brings a chidush in Rosh David, Parashat Kedoshim, that a woman that fulfills her purpose, which is to bring her husband to a point where he realizes that Torah is not a recommendation, but rather you have to go learn. You want to have a good home, you have to go learn Torah. You have to go watch Shiur Torah. A woman that succeeds there, a woman that succeeds in getting our kids to learn Torah, no matter how much enticement she has to give them, how many bribes. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says you have to bribe your kids to go learn Torah, buy them a little toy, a chocolate, whatever you got to do it. Why? If they learn Torah, they're going to become tzaddikim. Yeah, but they're only learning because they want a toy. They're only learning because they want this new stuff. Let them. Buy them. Why? Get them to learn Torah. Makom shelo lishma, ba lishma. Even if they start off by doing it just because they want a toy, just because they want a present, you'll see over time, you'll have kids that know a lot of Torah. I know a woman that does this, and God bless her. God bless her. She literally spends every penny she has enticing her kids to learn Torah every day. Every day, like literally. Every day she says she has a present for her kids. Every day. Sometimes small, sometimes big. They finish a collection of books or a book. Somebody finishes a book. There's always a party. There's always something. But every day the kids get something new. Every day is a little toy, a little chocolate, a little book, a little something. The house is full of stuff. Every day. Why? Those kids, she says they're going to be tzaddikim. And that's what she has. She has literally the kids. These kids know an enormous amount of Torah. I thought maybe they're going to start teaching the shiur one day. I'll take off. I can have some other people come here and teach you guys the shiurim. That's how much these little kids know. But you know what? That's what you need to do sometimes. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, a woman that gets her kids to learn Torah, the Chidah says, she gets the kids to learn Torah. She gets the husband to learn Torah. She gets a bigger reward than they do. Why? Because first and foremost, even if they learn, unless they learn at the highest level, they're going to get paid for whatever they learned. Her, on the other hand, since she fulfilled her job, she gets rewarded as if they fulfilled their role at the highest level. That's number one. Number two, we have a klal. We have a rule in Judaism. What's the rule? Comes Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, says in the Mishnah, Gadola me'aseh min ha'oseh. A person that entices another person to do a mitzvah gets a bigger reward than the one that actually did the mitzvah. You, as a Bat Israel, that entice your children to go learn Torah. You, as a Bat Israel, that go entice your husband to go learn Torah. You get a bigger reward than your husband. This is why Rav Ovadia Alav Shalom, at the yahrzeit of a one-year yahrzeit of his wife Margalit, he wanted to make sure that everybody understood how great she was, and he said to the people, you know how great she was, you know how amazing the Rabbanit was, how she protected me, how she took care of me. You even know how great this woman is. All of my Torah and all of your Torah is hers, all of it. Just like Rabbi Akiva said about his wife Rachel. He says, you know what that means? I used to do shiurim, he said. Every single day there was shiurim. He would go do shiurim on Shabbat, 7, 8 shiurim every Shabbat. During the week, he would come back from shiurim in the middle of the night, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. He would go all over the country, especially during the month of Elul. It was non-stop shiurim. Rav Ovadia was mamash like superhuman during this time. Shiurim, non-stop. And no matter where it was and how it was, He would come back at night, and the Rabbanit waiting for him in the kitchen, no matter what time. Sewing, knitting, and waiting to see Kvodo, the Gdolador husband, come home. Why didn't she go to sleep? No. Waiting. How was it? How was the shiur? Well, how was the shiur? She's Gdolador. She's going to start going to the sugyot. Yeah. She wanted to know, how was the shiur? The Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, I heard him say the story myself. He said, in the early days, Rav Ovadia used to give a shiur, and the Rabbanit would go to the shiur itself. She would sit by the entrance, knitting, listening to the shiur. And some of these shiurim were very complicated halachot and so on. He says, I don't know if she understood everything. All I know is she attended every shiur. She would be knitting over there, listening to my Abba speak. Rav Ovadia speaking, I'm listening. Why? I want to be there to support him. I want to show him that I care about his shiur. I care about his learning Torah. Not just, you go learn Torah, I'm going to go to the movies. You go learn Torah, I'm going to go and do whatever I want. No. You go do a shiur, you go learn a shiur, you go learn Torah, I'm going to wait for you. Why? For those 5 minutes of asking you, how was it? How was it? Why? I want to be there to support you. I want to show you I care about what you do. Same concept with the husband. Some of the Chachamim, they had a extraordinary relationships with their wives that you wouldn't understand unless you saw it yourself. In the bio about Rav Shalom Spadron, he writes there that one of the Chachamim, one time he went to visit him. He went to visit one of the Chachamim as a young man. And he waited for the Chacham because when he got to his house, he wasn't there. So the Rabbanit says, hey, he's going to be here in 15 minutes, but you can wait here. So he waited over there. As soon as the Chacham, one of the Gedolei Hador, his name escapes me at this moment, as soon as he arrived at the house, comes, he sits at the kitchen table with the wife, with the Rabbanit. And he starts telling her every single detail of everything he did since he left the house 2 hours ago. He said, first, I left. The weather wasn't so bad. And Baruch Hashem, I got to the bus. I prayed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to get me to the bus right on time and I don't miss the bus. And I got to the bus and I caught Baruch Hashem. I got on the bus and I prayed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he saved me from these steps, and Baruch Hashem, everything went okay with the steps. And then I found myself a seat. Baruch Hashem, I thank Hashem that I have a seat. I don't have to stand up on the bus. It's very hard for me, my legs. And he starts telling all the details. And then only 4 stops later, that was already enough. I was exactly where I needed to go. And I prayed to Hashem to help me to go down the stairs. And he started telling her every single detail of everything he did. And then he went to the Beit Din. And the case was this. And you had to do this, and he saw Rabbi this, and he said hello to this, and then he picked up the cookies on the way and here they are. 25 minutes telling her everything that happened. After he finishes, the Rabbanit gets up and goes back to the kitchen. And then Rav Shvanon says, then he looked at me and he said, come. I sat there and he says, you see, son, I taught you something here. I haven't spoken to the Rav. What did I learn? See, if you want to have support from your wife, there's a price. What's the price? You have to show her that you care about what she says. You have to show her that you care about what she thinks. And you have to involve her in your business. Tell her everything of what you do. Tell her everything of what you do. You went over here, you went there. Why? Because you care that she's involved in your life. Not that you're living like today. People live like roommates. Roommates, Ribono Shel Olam. They say hello to each other maybe once a month, twice a month, 6 times a year perhaps. Roommates. The guy walks into the house, instead of a big hug, instead of anything, like he's a horse. The woman is too busy on the phone. The husband comes to the house, instead of saying hello, instead of hanging up on whoever she's on the phone with, the husband comes, she's like, where's them? Like he's a taxi. But she's not going to get off the phone. People don't know how to be married. People don't know how to love each other. They simply don't know how to love each other. Chachamim love their wives much more than people can imagine. They just don't express it the same way that the ignoramuses of the world express it. Chazon Ish said, what the secular people, what the ignoramuses out there call love, we call karet. Why? Because their love is lust. Their love is lust. It's here today, it's gone tomorrow. Just based on physicality, based on something. And we already learned from the Mishnah, any love that's based on something won't last. If it's based on something, it won't last. If it's not based on something, it will last. If you only love her because she looks a certain way, you only love him because he acts a certain way, because he this way, that way, no good. Why? Love is something that you have to work on. And one of the main things is to get support from each other, to be supportive of each other. You have to care about him learning Torah, not just by sending him, but also by waiting for him. When he comes back from the shiur, when he comes back from learning Torah, you're sitting over there waiting for him to see how it was. How was it? Even though it's only going to take a minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes or a half hour for him to explain to you how it was, you want to show him support, that you care about what he does. And you, the husband, have to get her involved. Don't be one of these CIA husband that doesn't want to share anything with anybody. Your whole life is a secret. Until you die, everybody finds out you had 6 families. You have to share with your wife. Surely, your wife is the only person you're supposed to share stuff with, not with people that are strangers. But that's what the confusion is today. People share all of their deepest secrets with complete strangers, but with their own spouse, they don't know anything about each other. Completely wrong. Upside down world. One of the things that we see from the Chachamim is that they knew that they needed their spouse. They knew how to love their spouse. But sometimes people forget how to love somebody. Why? Because they're too busy loving themselves. They're too busy working on things for themselves, where they start looking at the relationship as like a businessman. If she does this for me, then I'll do that for her. If he does this for me, then I'll do that for him. That's not how it works. You want to have a happy marriage? You have to focus on everything she wants. And you have to focus on everything he wants. Yeah, but what about me? Don't worry. If you focus on everything he wants, he will surely give you what you want. And if you focus on everything she wants, surely she will give you everything that you want. Now, of course, that's assuming that people are not psychotic and materialistic and empty inside and are simply trying to use each other in order to destroy each other. I'm talking about normal people. Decent people, I should say. Normal people today are not necessarily decent. But nonetheless, a woman that wants to get this great eternal life needs to know that although you're obligated to do all of the mitzvot of modesty, of chala, of tarat mishpacha, of kashrut, and so on and so forth, the Torah has to be the fuel behind it. The Torah has to be the fuel behind it. Meaning, if the Torah is not the fuel behind it, either it's being done for the wrong reason or it won't last. The Torah has to be the engine behind it. Because if the Torah is not the reason behind it, then the reason why you're modest is perhaps more because of a style. You just simply like that type of clothes. And one day perhaps you may change your style. Or if your daughter comes to you with a different style that has half the amount of clothes that you do, you're going to keep quiet. Why? Because to you, there was no real connection to the modesty. It was just connection to the clothes. If the Torah is not the engine behind your actions as a mother, it won't survive. It won't survive. Same thing for a father, but needless to say, the reason why the Torah is the main engine that gives power to that resurrection, power to that Olam Haba, is because that has to be the reason why you are modest. That has to be the reason why you're making challah. That has to be the reason why you're keeping Shabbat. Because if you're keeping everything for different reasons, they won't survive. They won't survive. You're either doing it for the wrong reason yourself, or your kids are not going to do it. And that's one of the things that people don't understand, how important it is to have a good mother. How important it is to have a good mother, a good wife. If you have to pay your own life, all of your money, everything you possibly have to get yourself a good wife, you're still getting a discount. You're still getting a discount. And the reason why is because a good wife produces good fruit. A good wife produces good fruit that lasts forever. When a person has a wife that looks good, but perhaps doesn't produce any good fruits, what she produces is rotten fruit. It's either good fruit or rotten fruit. There's nothing in the middle. It's either good fruit or rotten fruit. Nothing in the middle. And unfortunately, many times when people pick a wife for the wrong reason, they pick a wife because of a look, they pick a wife because of money, they pick a wife because of a certain family, they pick a wife because of the wrong reasons, or vice versa. She picks a husband because of the wrong reason. Those marriages typically either end up being miserable or they simply don't last. Why? The Torah wasn't the engine behind everything. If you were modest because you like the clothes and not because of the Torah, then most likely you're going to change your opinion of the clothes at some point, or your kids will. Your mitzvah won't last. If you are keeping family purity simply because your husband said so, most likely your kids are not going to keep family purity. Why? Because you're not making it into a big deal. And most likely, you're not going to keep it 100% and make a lot of mistakes and perhaps even be with your husband when you're forbidden. Why? Because you missed your appointment and you don't want to get your husband angry, so you figured, you know what, I don't have to tell him this month. And a lot of times what happens is that when the Torah is not the engine, everything fails. Everything fails. And that's one of the things that we learned throughout all of our history. The reason why Am Yisrael is still here is not because of ignorant people, but rather because of the learned Jews. The learned Jews that we've had throughout all of our generations. The ignoramuses, the heretics, the anti-Torah people of 2,000 years ago, they died after a few generations. Why? Because their kids eventually disconnected from the Torah to such an extent that they became goyim. They became Christians, they became Arabs, they became, some type of troll in the world, whatever they became, but they left Judaism. They left Judaism. And so those ignoramuses that had government positions in the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire and the Turks and the Spaniards, and they abandoned the Torah, that's it. Their Judaism died within 1 or 2 generations. The reason why we have Judaism today is because of those that sacrificed their life for the Torah, that used the Torah as the engine. Those righteous women that used it as the engine. Those righteous men that used the Torah as the engine. They kept the Torah alive and they kept their own Judaism alive, and therefore their descendants stay alive till this day. Stay alive till this day. And the point is that we see this throughout history. Not just history over the last couple of thousand years, but even history throughout the last few decades. Wonderful stories of how the Torah saved Am Yisrael, both on a national scale and also individual. Where there's a very famous story of the Rav Miponovich. Rav Miponovich was one of the most important Jews over the last 100 years. And he opened a orphanage for a bunch of Jewish kids that did not have a Abba and a Ima. After the Holocaust, of course, many kids lost their parents, lost their brothers, lost their sisters, lost everything. And all the kid had in the world was himself. So Rav Miponovich collected a lot of these kids, all the kids that he could find, and he told them, I'm your father, I'm your mother, I'm your mommy, I'm your tati, don't worry. Anything you need, food, toys, candy, whatever you want, you come to me. I'm your Ima and your Abba. And he gave them little beds to sleep, and he gave them a place to rest, and he gave them a Torah, and he'd give them comfort, and he'd give them the love, and he'd hug them, and he must treat them like he was their mother and their father. One day, Rabbi Ponovich heard that there was a Catholic orphanage that had a bunch of Jewish kids that they themselves got from the Nazis, or some Jewish parents gave them to protect and pretend that the kid was not Jewish so he doesn't have to go to the Holocaust. For different reasons, these Catholic churches got a bunch of Jewish kids. So the Rabbi Ponovich heard about a specific one, and he wanted to go save those kids, but he knew that he needed help. So he called Rav Herzog, the first head rabbi of Israel, of Rishon LeZion, one of the Rishon LeZion of Israel, Rav Herzog. He told him, come with me, you are a national personality. They're not going to mess with you. Come with me to this place, to this country, to save these young kids. Of course, Rav Herzog went with him, and they got to the place after a long, long journey, and they got to the building, knock on the door. The priest opens up the huge doors, and he sees these two rabbis. Now, even though 6 million of us were just murdered in cold blood, anti-Semitism didn't exactly disappear. He looked at them and, what can I do for you? And he said, we heard that there's some Jewish kids here, and we want to take them back home, take them to Eretz Yisrael. He says to him, no, I don't think there's any Jewish kids here. And Rabbi Ponovich says, no, we have documentation that we know that there are certain kids that surely got here and we need to get them. Now, of course, in those days, there isn't all the documentation and digital media that makes everything accessible like it is today. So you had to find the kids, but in an uncommon way. Why? Because the pictures, everything, it's not like that. Not like they didn't have all that stuff. But he knew that for sure this place, this church, has a bunch of Jewish kids. But the priest doesn't want to give anybody away. And he says to him, listen, maybe there are some Jewish kids, maybe there aren't, but there's no way to know. I can't help you. He said, yeah, but let me at least try. Let me at least try to find those Jewish kids. He said, listen, what are you going to do? You're going to scare all my kids. These kids already had a hard life, the priest says. He tries to touch your emotions. He says, they already had a hard life. Some of these kids, they're already orphans. They already have a tough time. What are you going to start asking everybody if they're Jewish? You're going to traumatize everybody. I can't afford to do that to my kids. No. You got to find a different way. The Rabbi Ponovich has siyat dishmaya. Mamash ruach HaKodesh. To even think of such a thing. Where he says to him, listen, all I need is 1 minute. All I need is 1 minute. Now, of course, the Catholic priest takes him at face value. 1 minute is all you're going to get. You want 1 minute? No problem. 1 minute to relieve my own conscience? That's all you're going to get. 1 minute. Don't ever say I didn't help you. And he says, go ahead, you have 1 minute. He goes inside. He sees all of the kids are there. They're in their little beds. Some of them were eating, some of them was laying down, sleeping. Lots and lots of kids. And Rabbi Ponovich prays to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give me that engine, that Torah engine, to give me the idea of what to do. I only have seconds to find out if anybody in these hundreds and hundreds of kids is a Jew. How can I do such a thing? And moments later, he has a siyat dishmaya, divine assistance, to simply start singing. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohenu, Adonai Echad. And he sings it in a tune of the Ashkenazim that he learned it from for generations. He sings it like he learned it from his mommy. He sings it like he learned it from his grandma. He sings it like he learned it as a child. to all of these little youngalids, all these little kids. And as he's singing this tune, these little kids pick up their head. Mommy, 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 mommy. All of these kids get excited and they call for mommy. Why? Why do they call for mommy? Because their mommy sang them that same song called Shema Yisrael when they were little. Before mommy was destroyed in the hands of these murderers called the Nazis. Before their mommy was taken from them. She used to sing to them every night. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. In her beautiful voice, mommy used to sing to them before they went to sleep. Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael is what connects you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, little kid. Shema Yisrael makes you a Jew, little child. Shema Yisrael, that's what's going to save you. At a time you never even thought would exist, that you'd have to be saved. And Shema Yisrael is what saved those kids, because when the priest saw this miracle in front of his eyes, hundreds of kids are there, and all of these kids start getting up, calling for mommy, mommy. The priest knows those kids are undoubtedly Jewish, 100%. They heard that song, they know that song. And they're walking towards their mommy, the Rav Miponovich. And he takes them to Eretz Yisrael and brings them to his orphanage, brings them to the Torah. And many of those kids became Talmidei Chachamim. Talmidei Chachamim that we benefit from to this day. Why? Because of their mommy. Because their mommy did her job before she got murdered by the Nazis, Yimach Shimam v'zichram. Before she was taken away from this world and brought to heaven. She did her job. She did her job by teaching our kids the Shema Yisrael and telling her kids, that's what makes you a Jew. That's what makes you a Jew, connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the Torah. That mommy didn't have to worry about the Holocaust. Didn't have to worry about being murdered in a gas chamber with thousands and thousands of people each day. 12,000 a day in Auschwitz. 12,000 a day. They were gas chambering. She didn't have to worry about that. Why didn't she have to worry about it? Because she understood that what makes you a Jew, what makes you a Jew is the Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. That's what I did my job. I made sure my kid, he knew it. He learned it. He knows who HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. He knows what's the engine of a Jew. He knows the Torah. That's all I need. Gas chamber, no gas chamber. It doesn't make a difference. I'm simply taking this clothes you call a body and going to Gan Eden. I'll leave you with the clothes. My neshama goes to Gan Eden. Yeah, but what about your kid? Don't worry. That kid knows Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take care of him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take care of that kid. You see, Rabotai Yekarim, the price of a good woman, the price of a good wife is literally everything you can possibly pay to get your wife to be your number one advocate of Torah in your household. Anything you can pay is a discount. Anything you can pay. Why? Because that woman that is going to teach your kids Shema Yisrael, that woman that's going to take your little kids to the kindergarten, and they're crying, and they're nervous, and they don't want to go, and it's first grade, and they don't want to go because they don't know anybody, and they miss home, and they want to go back and play with their toys, and she's not like the father who just drops off the kids and leaves. Hey, listen, they'll survive. No, the mom tells them a story. Don't worry, honey, I'll be back here exactly at 1 o'clock. I'll be back here, I'll be waiting for you. Don't worry, you're going to meet new friends. She sweetens the misery of this world for that little boy. She sweetens the pain and anguish of this world for that little girl before she goes and leaves him to go learn Torah. Before she sends him to go learn Torah, she sweetens it for that kid. She says, I got a little present for you. I got a chocolate for you. I got a candy for you. The best one. Your favorite one. Just go learn some Torah. Just go learn Shema Yisrael. And I promise you, I'll be waiting for you. I promise you that I'll be there waiting for you just like I wait for your father. Each and every single night, just to see how it was his learning. I'm waiting for you. That mother that's going to do that for your kids, that mother that's going to do that for you as the husband, any price in the world she's worth. Any price. And it's still a discount. Why? That is the engine. Just like the Torah is the engine of Am Yisrael, the woman is called Bait. She's called a house because she is what keeps the house together. But a woman that doesn't want to do this, a woman that wants to go to the mall, a woman that wants to go to the movies, bars, vacations, beach, she wants to go have a good time. She's not even worth the sand she was made with. Why? She's a destroyer. If a woman, it's a mother, doesn't care about Torah, surely the kids are not going to care about Torah. And only by divine intervention will one of our kids actually marry another Jew. Only by divine intervention will one of our kids actually want to remain a Jew and perhaps even one day pick up a Chumash and read. Why? Because if the mother doesn't care about Torah, the kids have no reason in the world to care about Torah. She's the engine. She is the engine. Just like the Torah is the engine of Am Yisrael, still surviving 3,333 years. The mother, the Bat Yisrael, the mother in a Jewish house, she's the engine of the house. She's the engine of the house. And if a person knew this, he would literally appreciate the ground his wife walks on. He would kiss her hands each time he saw her. He would make sure the kids kissed the mother's hand every time they saw her. Why? If she is in good shape, the rest of us are okay. She's in bad shape, rest of us are a disaster. Rest of us are a disaster. Rav Shpadon alav shalom. His mother was the daughter of Rav Auerbach. Came from a family of tzaddikim. When she was on her deathbed in the hospital, spitting blood. She was young, 63 years old. But she was in the hospital spitting blood. She saw that one of her family members, who was also in the hospital, but was 20 years older than her, he was leaving the hospital. He was in the hospital, but he got better, and he was leaving. And he was a Talmid Chacham. The Rebbitzin told her daughter, "Come on, get me up. I got to go say something to him." She said, "Ima, it's very hard for you to move. You don't need to. I'll just go tell him." She goes, No. I have to go tell him something. Please go stop him and help me go talk to him." After she tried to discourage her, to no avail, she ran after the elder Talmid Chacham that was in his 80s and stopped him and said, "My Ima wants to say something to you." He waited over there and she went back to get her Ima. And through an extraordinary amount of effort, she eventually got out of the bed with blood trickling out of her mouth. She walked over all the way to this Talmid Chacham. And she says to him, "You have many more years of Torah, learning till 120. And you never see such places." That's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to say. All of that effort, to what? You could have just told your daughter to say, "Ad mea v'asrim until 120, refuah shlema," even send a balloon and a teddy bear. Why do you have to get up? Why do you have to get up and torture yourself? Because he's Torah. He learned Torah his whole life, and she understood the value of Torah from the family that she came from the children that she raised. She knew what Torah was. For Torah, if I don't get up for Torah, I'm worth nothing. A woman like this, priceless, is still a discount. Still a discount. Why? She knows what Torah is. Surely her children are going to be special for Am Yisrael. Surely her children are going to value Torah. If the wife of the house appreciates Torah, surely the kids are going to appreciate Torah. No such thing as the parents love Torah and the kids don't. No such thing. No such thing. If there's true love of Torah in the house, the kids love Torah. Surely you can have ups and downs, this, that, the other thing, but if there is love of Torah in the house by the parents, real love, for sure the kids are going to be lovers of Torah. Why? Because if there is real love of Torah, that means there's going to be real love between the husband and the wife. The husband is going to appreciate the wife for everything that she does. And even if he has an anger problem, he's going to try to control himself. He's going to try to overcome these problems. Why? Because he knows that his wife is priceless. Somebody asked me the other day, I have an anger problem. What should I do? I told him, listen, there's many different books about it, but one thing that I happen to have in my possession is this book. I don't know if it's still being published, but I'm sure you can buy it online somewhere. It's called Guard Your Anger. Small little book, 32 different great ideas of what to do and how to control your anger. And there's a lot of great ideas here. But one of the things that you'll find in the beginning is that he gives you a brilliant idea, brilliant perspective of anger. What's the idea? He said, listen, you being angry, not necessarily an abnormal thing. People are annoying, so it's easy to get angry. But expressing your anger, Torah says, it's forbidden to express your anger. If you become violent, you start yelling, things like that. Gemara Masechet Shabbat says, if you are yelling and screaming, it's already considered as if you're committing idolatry. If you actually throw something and break something as a result of your anger, it's as if you brought a sacrifice to an idol. So anger is a horrible thing. Horrible thing. There's a reason why Torah says to us, honor your parents, love your brother. You have to do certain things. Why? Because those are not just mitzvot, those are actually cures for the anger, cures for the problem. How is honor going to cure my anger? How is love going to cure my anger? This is how. The reason why you're yelling at your wife like a lunatic, the reason why you're throwing stuff at your husband like a psychopath, why? Is because at that moment of anger, you lost all respect, all honor for that person. All you care about is the fact that they did something that's the opposite of what you want. It's the opposite of what you want. So you lost respect for them. But if they were a police officer, and that police officer said, hey, lady, you drove too fast. $500 fine. What are you going to do? You start yelling at him? You start throwing your shoe at him? No. Why? Because even though he just pulled you over and he did the exact opposite of what you want him to do, and in fact even told you you're going to have to take that $500 budget you have for shoes and bags and spend it on speeding tickets, you're still not going to lose respect for that police officer. Why? Because that's his job. And even if you did lose respect for him, you're still going to have to honor him because you have a certain amount of fear of him that it may get worse. So you don't lose your cool unless you want to go to jail. You see, our Torah obligates us to honor our parents. Honor our parents. So much so that a child doesn't honor their parents and curses them, it's death penalty. Hits them, it's death penalty. It shouldn't be treated any differently if you are a parent. Even if you're not necessarily married to someone that is the ideal tzaddik in the world, doesn't mean that you have to disrespect him. Even if you're not married to the biggest tzaddikah in the world, doesn't mean you have to disrespect them. In fact, they are parents, but they're parents of your kids. And you have to honor them. And surely you have to control your anger against them. And the moment that they do something that's the opposite of what you want, think of this. That police officer, he's doing his job. He's giving you a ticket, $500. he's doing something and he's leaving and he's moving on with his life and he cares less about you. If you died right there, he wouldn't shed a single tear over you. Wouldn't shed a single tear over you. He's taking $500 from you even if it took you a year to make it. And you still honor him and you're still not going to lose your mind on him. Your wife, she may have done something really annoying. You may be right and she is annoying. But guess what? If you were down, who do you think is going to be there for you? Your kids? Who do you think is going to be there for you? Your friends? Who do you think is going to be there for you? Only person in the world is going to be there for you is your wife. If you were down, who do you think is going to be there for you? Your mother? Your sister? Your cousin? They're all gone. They're all living in different states, in different countries, they might not even be alive. Who's going to be there for you? Your husband. Your husband. Yeah, he's annoying. Doesn't mean you have to dishonor him. Doesn't mean you have to lose your mind on him. Why? You didn't lose your mind on a cop. You didn't lose your mind on that person. Why? Because you know he's doing a certain job. Sometimes your husband's job is to annoy you. Sometimes your wife's job is to annoy you. That's her job. Sometimes that's the job. Why? Kadosh Baruch Hu said, I want to test him. I want to test to see how much Torah he's really applying in his life. So I'm going to send him his wife to do her job. What? To annoy you. If you lose your mind and act like a lunatic, that means that all of your Torah is simply theoretical. But if you control yourself and you say, not going to say nothing. I love you, honey. I love you, poopies. I love you, cookies. When are we eating? Even after she annoyed you. Because you know that she is doing her job. Because you know that her job is much more valuable than the police officer that gave you a ticket. You know that her job is much more important because she's going to be the only one that's there for you. She's going to be the only one that picks up her half-dead husband when no one wants to look at him. She's going to be the only one that's going to make sure that your kids learn Torah and do mitzvot. She's going to be the only one that cares about you when push comes to shove. Why? Because that's her job. So even though she's annoying, you don't dishonor her. Why? That's her job. That's her job. And even though he's annoying, you don't lose your mind. Why? That's his job. Sometimes his job is to annoy you. Sometimes his job is to be the tool that Hashem uses to test you. Needless to say, you have to give him at least as much honor as you give some strange police officer that's going to fine you without thinking twice. When you honor somebody, automatically control sets in. The second you lose respect for someone, that second, you start thinking in different strange ways that a normal person doesn't think. So first thing that you learn, when you learn from the Chachamim, is that everybody understands that marriage, as important as it is not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy to have a good marriage. It's not easy to have a happy marriage. It's not easy at all. No one is delusional to think that just because you learn Torah and she does mitzvot, everything is going to be easy. There is arguments in every household. There's arguments, there's disconnect in every household. But let it stay a household. Let it stay a loving household. Don't become roommates. Don't become cellmates. Don't become enemies. Remember that you are with each other, not against each other. Remember all the good things she did for you. What good things she did for me? You see those kids, they go to yeshiva? Why do you think it is? Because of you? No, it's because of her. It's not because of you, it's because of her. Why? She taught them Shema Yisrael. She taught them Shema Yisrael. She taught them to go to the cheder. She taught them to learn Chumash. She taught them to say Shema Yisrael. She taught them to say Asher Yetzar. That's the reason why your kids are that way. That's the reason. And for that alone, you have to thank her for eternity. Why? That kid That kid that's learning Torah is still at 15, 16, 17 years old, at an upside down world, and he's still learning Torah, still keeps Shabbat, still everything. That's your Kaddish. That's your Kaddish. That kid is going to help you even after you leave this world with his mitzvot. What do you think? It happened by itself? Started with her. Started with her. For that alone, she deserves all the credit in the world. For that alone, she deserves all of the leniency in the world from you and every mistake that she makes, as far as she cooked the wrong thing, and she was too late, and she was too early, and this and that. Learn to love her. Learn to love her. Why? She does a lot more good for you than bad. Doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean it's easy. But if you start counting all of the good things, surely you'll find a lot more of that than bad. And you'll see that this quiet session that you have to force yourself to have, of not yelling at her, of not screaming at her, of not doing all types of things that you really want to do because she really got to you, is a small price to pay for a good wife. Small price to pay. You see, Rabotai, getting a bad wife, easy. Go to any street in the world, you'll find some zona that wants to be your wife. To get a good wife, no price in the world is enough, and it's still a discount. If you find somebody that's willing to let you learn Torah, fulfill the Torah, keep Shabbat, make sure that your kids go to yeshiva, you find somebody like that, any price in the world, it's not enough. Not enough. So make sure to say thank you. Make sure to say I love you. Make sure to understand this constantly. Because a good wife, it's not easy to find. And if you have to pay a price for it, being quiet, being less angry, being more generous, being more this and more that, it's a cheap price. It's a small price to pay for a good wife. Small price. Surely, part of that price is being a good husband. Part of that price is being a sensitive husband. Part of that price is a husband that's going to share with his wife what's going on in his life. Part of that price is a generous husband that's not going to be stingy when it comes to anything. Part of that price is going to be a husband that knows that a wife needs to hear, I love you. If you don't say I love you to your husband, if you don't say I love you to your wife, you have a problem. You have a problem. If you have the mentality of, hey, listen, maybe I didn't say I love you, but I told you I love you 20 years ago. If anything would have changed, I would have told you. If that's your mentality, you have a problem. You have a problem. Why? She needs to hear, I love you. Yeah, but she knows I love her. She needs to hear it. She needs to hear I love you. She needs to see I love you. And what do you think? Your kids don't? Your kids need to hear I love you. Your kids need to hear I need you. I want you. You're my best. You're my everything. You little kids, I need you in my life. Why? You make me happy. You make Ima happy. You make Abba happy. I need you kids in my life. I want you kids in my life. I know I can't play with you that much, but once in a while, I want you to be there. I want you to be there. You want to make sure your wife knows. Your wife knows that you need her. Why? Because it feels good to be needed. But if you're one of those people where, I don't need nothing, I can manage in the world by myself, you'll be by yourself. You'll be by yourself. And it's good that you're by yourself. At least you'll contain the damage. When you love somebody, you have to let them know. Not only that you love them for what they do for you, but you need them to do it. You need them to do it. You need them to throw out the garbage. You need them to make you coffee. You need them to just be there, sit next to you and say nothing. You need them. If you're not sharing these emotions with the people that you so-called love, what kind of life do you have? What kind of empty life do you have? Oh, she knows I love her. Okay. Shoot. Good luck with that one. Good luck with that one. You see, Rabotai Kareem, the Gaon Mivilna, in a letter, in a Torah letter, writes to his wife, and as a side note to the messenger, that yes, this is a big mitzvah, that women get an eternal life because of the Torah that they teach the kids and the synagogue they bring them to and all that stuff. Yeah. But as a side note, this mitzvah, I tell this to my queen. I tell this to the queen of my house, to my princess, he writes. I tell her this. Why didn't he just say I tell this to my wife? I tell it to that lady that cleans my bed. I tell it to that lady that, I see her once a month. How come he doesn't say that? How come he says, I tell this to my princess? How come he says to a complete stranger that his wife is a princess? This is the biggest rabbi in the world we're talking about. Why does he call his wife, I tell this to the princess of my house, in a letter? Why? Because he knows she's a princess of this house. He knows it well enough. He knows it well enough that he cannot even help himself. He has to say it. He has to make sure that his wife knows that she's the princess of the house. And he has to remind himself that she's the princess of the house. He has to remind himself, yeah, but he's the biggest rabbi in the world. Exactly. What do you think? He's the biggest rabbi in the world just because he learns books? Some of the most fantastic love that exists in the world exists in the homes of the biggest tzaddikim. The biggest tzaddikim. Why? They truly love their wives. Not because of something, but because of everything. That's the difference, Abutai. When you love your wife for everything that she is, for everything that she's done, that love, it won't go away. Why? Because you love her. When you love your husband for everything that he is and everything that he's done and everything that he could do and everything, it's just simply everything. It includes the flaws that he has and the deficiencies and the negative attitude at times and all types of other issues. And you still love him and you still support him. You still wait for him in the middle of the night. And you still make him coffee in the morning. And you still make sure to listen to him, and you still make sure to give him respect, and you still make sure to say I love you, and you still make sure to be as excited to see him even though he just left 15 minutes ago. You still do it. That love not only will last, it will last. It will last generations. It will last so long that even your kids will learn how to love just like you. Be'ezrat Hashem, this too will teach us not only what we want, not only what we need, but the price we have to pay for it. And I promise you, if I didn't say it enough times, I'll say it again. If she's willing to let you learn Torah, live a life of Torah, she's gonna raise those kids and make sure that they learn Torah, build a house of Torah. Any price in the world is not enough. So make sure to say, thank you, and I love you. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'amen.
אני מברך את הרבנים, רגע. אני מברך את הרבנים, הרב ירון ראובן, הרב אפרים כחלון, ראשי ארגון בעזרת השם, שהלכו בפי עליון, שעלו מעלה, יהיה להם ברכה והצלחה, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא בישועות ליבם לטובה ולברכה, שבכל אשר יפנו ישכילו ויצליחו, יזכרו לעשות כאלה וכאלה, הגדילו תורה לאדירה, אמן ואמן.
בעזרת השם רשת בכל הארץ. הוא היהודי הזה, הוא היה מיליונר, סגר את כל הביזנס, אמר אני משקיע פה בעולמה של תורה.
איפה הוא גר?
בפלורידה.
פלורידה, איפה זה פלורידה? באמריקה.
במיימי. כן, ליד. אנחנו שם עכשיו הולכים להקים קהילה ספרדית.
חזק אותו בשמי.
קהילה ספרדית גדולה.
תאמין לו מה שבירכתי אותו.
כן, קהילה ספרדית גדולה.